Namaste. I'm Alkananda Ma, Ayurvedic doctor and principal of Alandi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style Ayurveda school in Boulder, Colorado. Well, with 4th of July weekend coming up, I thought we should have a little look at alcohol and the kind of health problems that alcohol is linked to, because 4th of July weekend is a pretty big drinking holiday. So obviously, getting intoxicated with alcohol is going to lead to a much higher incidence of accidents, car accidents, which could be harmful or deadly for yourself and others. Also, fireworks accidents and just general problems that can be caused when we suddenly drink too much. It's hard on our heart, and if it's hot and you're out there in the heat barbecuing and drinking, you may suffer from dehydration too. Remember, alcohol, even beer, doesn't quench your thirst. So there was a study that was presented to the American College of Cardiology in New Orleans a little while ago, actually in March, that talked about the effects of different kinds of alcohol, highlighting that if you're going to drink alcohol, maybe you should try to pick red wine because it does contain antioxidants such as polyphenols, which has cardiovascular benefits and anti-inflammatory benefits. This is what the study authors point to. I say there's so little polyphenols in red wine that you would have to develop alcoholic liver disease to drink enough red wine to get your polyphenols. So let's get your polyphenols elsewhere, like from wonderful Ayurvedic herbs and all the brilliant foods that we recommend for you, and not try to depend on red wine for polyphenols because it's not a very good source. The authors also mention that beer contains purines, so you could definitely get a gout attack if you go on a beer binge on 4th of July because it's going to increase your uric acid levels. Generally speaking, people who have high alcohol consumption are 24% more likely to die for all-cause mortality than those who are occasional or never drinkers. And if you drink less than 1.5 drinks a week, this study would classify you as never drinker, even though from an Ayurvedic standpoint, we want you to have no more than half a drink per week, please, please. People with high alcohol consumption are also 36% more likely to die from cancer. Remember, if you want to avoid cancer, there is no safe level of alcohol, and there is no safe type of alcohol. And people with high alcohol consumption are also 14% more likely to die from heart disease than occasional or never drinkers. You also want to have if you're going to have alcohol, have it at the end of the meal rather than before the meal. However, if we're looking at lower consumption levels, this study thought that the results were nuanced, that drinking spirits, beer, or cider is associated with a significantly higher risk of death, and low levels of wine consumption is associated with a significantly lower risk of death. I'm not at all sure about the validity of this finding, although it was presented at a cardiology conference. It may just be that wine drinkers are a little more affluent and generally have better health if they're drinking low amounts of wine. Obviously, spirits don't have a health benefit and give you much more alcohol in a short while. So even a low intake of spirits, beer, or cider is still associated with a 9% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. So overall, the high alcohol intake increases all-cause death, cancer death, and cardiovascular disease mortality. Even low or moderate consumption of spirits, beer, and cider increases your risk of death. This study is still going with the idea that a low or moderate intake of red wine is associated with decreased mortality, although there are many other studies that don't agree with this, and I wouldn't really take that ball and run with it. Do not have the alcohol before meals, just to understand that this study is observational data from the UK Biobank with self-report. So it's the study has some significant limitations. Remember that from an Ayurvedic standpoint, if you want to consume some alcohol, don't take more than a half glass of wine, and try to keep that half glass to once a week, because alcohol is basically a poison, so you don't want, it's enjoyable, but it's also a poison. So have a happy 4th of July weekend, and in an ideal world, have a happy and sober 4th of July weekend. Namaste. See you next week.